It had been a long day for Maya. The kind of day where everything felt heavier than usual. Her bag, her thoughts, even the air around her. She finished her shift late in the evening, tired but relieved to finally head home. The city was buzzing, as it always did, but Maya was used to it. She walked to her small car, took a deep breath, and told herself that tomorrow would be better. She often told herself that. She pulled onto the main road, keeping her windows slightly open to feel the cool evening breeze. Music played softly from the car speakers, something calm and comforting. Maya loosened her shoulders and tried to relax. She didn't have many exciting moments in life. Her days were mostly routine, filled with work, deadlines, and responsibilities. But she always found a way to smile, even on exhausting days. As she approached a long stretch of road, the traffic light ahead turned red. Maya slowed down and stopped, tapping her fingers lightly on the steering wheel. Just then, she heard the low rumble of a motorcycle pulling up beside her. It wasn't a noisy bike, more like a smooth, confident sound. Curious, she turned her head just slightly. A man sat on a black motorcycle, wearing a dark helmet with a visor down. His jacket looked expensive but casual, and his posture was relaxed, like he had all the time in the world. Maya didn't know why, but something about him felt different. Mysterious. Maybe it was the motorcycle, or maybe it was the way he slowly turned his head toward her, as if he sensed her looking. The man lifted his visor, just halfway. She could see his eyes now, sharp, warm, but playful. The kind of eyes that made you feel seen, even in a quick glance. Maya's breath hitched slightly. She wasn't the type to flirt with strangers, especially not ones on motorcycles at red lights. But something about this moment didn't feel dangerous or strange. It felt surprising, unexpected, a small spark in an otherwise ordinary day. The man nodded at her car, then at her, as if silently asking, "Long day?" Maya couldn't help smiling. "Too long," she said, keeping her tone light. He chuckled softly, the sound muffled by the helmet but still warm enough to reach her. "You should take a break sometimes," he replied. Maya raised an eyebrow. "Says the guy hanging around traffic lights on a motorcycle." His smile widened, and she realized he wasn't offended. In fact, he seemed to enjoy her quick comeback. "Fair point," he said. "But trust me, everyone deserves a little fun." Maya didn't know why she felt so comfortable speaking to him. Maybe it was the gentle humor in his voice, or the easy confidence he carried. Maybe it was simply because she rarely allowed herself moments like this. Moments where she wasn't worrying about work or bills or plans. Just being present. "So, do you always talk to strangers at traffic lights?" Maya teased lightly. "Only the interesting ones," he replied without missing a beat. She blinked, caught off guard by the smoothness of his answer. A tiny flutter stirred in her chest. Not the kind of big, dramatic feeling found in movies, but a small, warm surprise. A reminder that she was still young, still allowed to laugh, still capable of a little harmless excitement. The light was still red, almost unusually long. The city noise faded into the background as they stayed there, two strangers sharing a fleeting moment. He tapped the side of his helmet lightly and said, "You should smile more. It suits you." Maya rolled her eyes, but she was smiling again. "You don't even know me." He tilted his head. "Sometimes it doesn't take long to notice something good." She looked away for a second, trying to hide the small blush rising on her cheeks. She wasn't used to compliments. She wasn't used to being noticed at all, honestly. Her life was simple. Wake up, go to work, come home, repeat. Moments like this didn't fit into her routine. Just then, the traffic light flickered to yellow, then green. The man lowered his visor completely and straightened his posture. "Looks like that's my cue," he said. Before she could reply, he gave her a small, playful salute and revved his engine, just enough to let her know he wasn't someone who tried to show off. Then he sped ahead smoothly, merging into the evening traffic, disappearing just as quickly as he had appeared. Maya stayed after him, still holding on to the smile he had put on her face. She felt strangely energized, like a spark had been lit inside her after weeks, maybe months, of feeling tired and unnoticed. She didn't know his name, didn't know where he came from, didn't know anything about him. For all she knew, she would never see him again. But the moment lingered. The playful smile, the warm eyes, the simple, unexpected kindness of a stranger. As she continued driving home, Maya realized something unusual. Her day no longer felt quite so heavy. She didn't know it yet, but the stranger on the motorcycle was about to change her life in ways she never imagined. The next morning, Maya woke up with the same routine she had followed for years. Alarm rings, shower, make breakfast, check emails, rush to work. Yet something felt a little different. A tiny softness in her mood, a quiet smile that kept returning without her permission. She tried to push it away, reminding herself that it was just a small moment with a stranger and nothing more. But it kept drifting back like a warm memory. She got ready for work, tying her hair the usual way, dressing in her simple office clothes, and heading to the bus stop. Her car had started giving trouble lately, so she preferred public transport when she didn't feel like stressing about parking. While waiting for the bus, she glanced at every passing motorcycle, just for a second, only to look away immediately, embarrassed by her own curiosity. Focus on reality, she muttered to herself. Bills don't pay themselves. She arrived at Thorn Dynamics, the company where she had worked for nearly 3 years. The building was tall and polished, always buzzing with people trying to prove themselves. Maya was good at her job, better than she gave herself credit for, but she often felt overshadowed, unnoticed. She worked hard, handled most of the tasks nobody else wanted, yet never quite stood out. Inside, the usual office chatter filled the air. A coworker waved at her from the desk, and she waved back. The atmosphere felt slightly different today, more lively, almost like everyone was waiting for something. "Did you hear?" Someone whispered loudly enough for the whole room to hear. "The new CEO is arriving today." "That billionaire guy," another voice responded. "The one everyone's scared of." Maya raised an eyebrow. She had heard a little about the leadership change, but not enough to care deeply. CEOs came and went. Her life didn't change much no matter who sat in the top office. But the others seemed excited or nervous, like this new CEO was some kind of legend. "I heard he's young," one person said. "I heard he's super strict," said another. "I heard he turned 3 failing companies into huge successes before he even hit 30, someone else added dramatically. Maya chuckled quietly. Rumors always grew bigger the more they spread. Still, she couldn't deny she was curious. Billionaires had always felt like characters in movies, not real people who walked around or talked to employees like her. She placed her bag on her desk and powered on her computer, pushing thoughts of strangers on motorcycles out of her mind. Work first, imagination later. A few hours passed, and everything seemed normal until an email popped up. "All employees, please gather in the auditorium at 11 a.m. for the official introduction of our new CEO." Maya sighed. Big meetings like this always made her feel small in a crowd, but she joined the slow stream of employees heading downstairs. The auditorium filled quickly, buzzing with whispers and excitement. She found a seat near the middle, not too close, not too far. From there, she could blend in just enough. After a few minutes, the lights dimmed slightly, and the head of HR walked up to the stage. She tapped the microphone and smiled politely. "Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. Today, we officially welcome our new CEO, a visionary leader who has already accomplished more than most people do in a lifetime." Maya tried not to roll her eyes at the overly polished introduction. "And now," the HR head continued, "please welcome Mr. Elias Thorne." The applause started softly but grew quickly. Maya clapped along, though without much enthusiasm. She was more interested in finishing the report waiting on her desk than listening to another speech about company goals and visions. But then, the sound of footsteps reached the stage. Confident, steady, calm. Maya looked up, and her breath stopped. The man walking onto the stage wasn't a stranger. He wasn't a distant billionaire she had imagined only in headlines. He was the man from the motorcycle. The same helmet, the same warm eyes, the same smile that had made her forget her exhaustion the night before. Only now, he wasn't wearing a casual jacket. He was wearing a charcoal-colored suit that looked like it belonged in a magazine. his hair neatly styled, his expression composed yet familiar. Maya's heart dropped into her stomach. "No, no way," she whispered under her breath. He didn't seem nervous at all. He stood tall, thanked the audience warmly, and began speaking about his vision for the company. His voice was calm and confident, the same calm confidence she heard in that brief conversation at the red light. Maya's palms grew warm. She sank slightly into her chair, hoping no one noticed her sudden stiff posture. The room was too crowded, too bright, too loud. Her mind was spinning. How? Why him? What are the chances? Her breathing felt shallow. She didn't usually get embarrassed easily, but this was different. This wasn't just some stranger she had joked with briefly. This was her boss, her billionaire boss, and he had seen her laugh, roll her eyes, tease him without knowing who he was. She closed her eyes for a moment, hoping this was just a strange dream. But when she opened them, he was still there, speaking confidently on stage. He scanned the room casually as he talked, and then his eyes landed on her. Not for long, just a moment. A tiny, knowing smile touched his lips. Maya felt her heart jump, because she realized something horrifying. He recognized her. Maya sat frozen in her seat, her heart beating so loud she was certain the people sitting around her could hear it. She tried to steady her breathing, but every time she looked up at the stage, the same truth hit her again and again. The man she flirted with. The man she teased at the red light. The man who made her laugh when she was exhausted. He was now standing a few feet away, confidently addressing hundreds of employees as their new CEO. She kept repeating the same thought in her mind. Maybe he didn't recognize me. Maybe I look different. Maybe he sees hundreds of faces every day. Maybe I'm imagining things. But she wasn't. Because the moment his eyes met hers, even for that brief second, something passed between them. Recognition. Amusement. A hint of that same playful spark she had seen the previous night. He didn't react dramatically, just a subtle knowing smile. But that tiny gesture made her entire face warm. He remembers, she whispered to herself, sinking slightly lower in her chair. The rest of the speech felt like a blur. She tried to focus, truly tried, but her mind was racing faster than his motorcycle. By the time he finished and the auditorium erupted in applause, Maya felt like she might faint from the mix of shock and embarrassment swirling inside her. She stayed in her seat for a moment after everyone began standing. She needed time to breathe, to collect herself. She wasn't ready to face the crowd, or was, face him. Wow, he's impressive, someone nearby said. He's so confident, another added. He looks younger than I expected. Maya kept her head low. The last thing she wanted was for anyone to notice her trembling hands. Finally, when most of the crowd had filed out, she slowly stood and made her way toward the exit, hoping she could slip out unnoticed. But luck was not on her side. Just as she reached the hallway, she saw the new CEO speaking to a small group of department heads. Her department head included. They were smiling, shaking hands, welcoming him politely. Maya panicked and quickly tried to walk the other way. Too late. Good morning, a smooth, familiar voice said behind her. Her feet stopped mid-step. A cold shiver ran down her back. She turned around slowly, praying it was someone else. It wasn't. Elias stood there, hands in his pockets, a calm expression on his face. Up close, he looked slightly different from the night before. Not mysterious this time, but sharp, polished, powerful. Yet his eyes held the same quiet warmth. She swallowed hard. Good morning, sir. The word sir felt strange on her tongue. She wasn't used to calling someone she lightly flirted with sir. So, he repeated, raising an eyebrow, a small smile tugging at his lips. That's new. Maya's cheeks grew warm. Well, you're my boss now. I suppose I am, he said lightly. Funny how small the world is, isn't it? She didn't know what to say. Her brain went blank. Completely blank. Elias glanced around to make sure no one was close enough to overhear. Then he lowered his voice slightly. I didn't expect to run into you here. Me neither, she muttered, almost too quietly. He chuckled softly. I hope our little conversation last night didn't scare you. No, she replied quickly. Yes. Not in a bad way. It was just unexpected. You can say that again, he teased. Maya pressed her lips together, trying to stay composed. She didn't want to seem foolish or unprofessional, even though she felt like both at the moment. Elias studied her for a moment, his expression thoughtful. Don't worry, he said finally. I won't make things awkward for you. She nodded, grateful but still nervous. And, he added lightly, I promise I won't bring up last night in front of the entire team. Her eyes widened in horror. Please don't, she said a little too quickly. His smile deepened. I wouldn't do that. For a brief moment, there was silence. Not uncomfortable, just filled with the weight of everything neither of them knew how to address. Then he cleared his throat. Well, I should continue my introductions. But it was good to officially meet you. He extended his hand. Maya hesitated only for a fraction of a second before shaking it. His handshake was firm but gentle. Professional. Except, not entirely. Because the moment their hands touched, a faint spark passed through her. Just a small one, but enough to make her heart skip. He noticed. She could tell. But he didn't comment. Instead, he let go of her hand politely. I'll be seeing more of you around, he said. Her breath caught. Why? Why do you say that? I have a feeling, he replied simply. With that, he walked away, calm, confident, completely collected, leaving Maya standing in the hallway with a heart that felt too full and thoughts that felt too tangled. When she finally returned to her desk, her coworkers were buzzing with excitement about the new CEO. But Maya couldn't join their conversations. She sat quietly, staring at her computer screen, replaying every second of both encounters. The stranger on the motorcycle, the CEO in a suit. Same man, same eyes, same smile. And now, her paths with him were crossing whether she wanted them to or not. She wasn't sure if it was fate, coincidence, or something else altogether. But one thing she did know. Her life was no longer as predictable as it had been the day before. The rest of the workday passed in a blur for Maya. She tried focusing on her tasks, but her mind kept drifting to the same place. Back to the stage, back to the hallway, back to Elias' calm eyes and that subtle smile. She scolded herself repeatedly. Focus, Maya. Do your work. He's just the CEO. You'll probably never deal with him again. But deep down, she knew that wasn't true. Something about the way he had said, I'll be seeing more of you, kept echoing in her mind. She wished he hadn't said that. She wished she hadn't remembered the warmth of his handshake. And she especially wished she hadn't blushed like a nervous teenager. By the time she reached home later that evening, her brain felt exhausted from overthinking. She heated some leftover food, sat by the small window of her apartment, and replayed the day for the 100th time. The truth was simple. She felt embarrassed, but also strangely energized. Like life had shaken her awake. She didn't want complications. She didn't want attention from someone powerful. She didn't want rumors, drama, or anything that could risk a job. But she couldn't force her mind to forget him either. The next morning, she arrived at work early, hoping to avoid bumping into him again. The building felt calm and quiet at that hour, and she liked it that way. She made herself a cup of tea and settled into her desk, determined to have a normal day. Around mid-morning, her department head, Mr. Keller, walked over with a clipboard in hand. He looked unusually serious. Maya, can I see you for a moment? He asked. Her heart sank. Sure. Is everything okay? He didn't answer, just gestured for her to follow him. Her steps felt heavy as they walked toward the meeting room. She couldn't help thinking. Did he find out? Did someone say something? Did I accidentally get myself in trouble without even knowing it? When they stepped inside, Maya froze. Elias was there, standing near the window, reviewing a document. He looked up as the door opened, and their eyes met again. This time, his smile was soft, polite enough for the workplace, but familiar enough to make her chest tighten. Good morning, Maya, he said. Her department head spoke next. Mr. Thorne asked for you specifically. Her stomach dropped. Why? Why me? Elias stepped forward, calm as ever. I've been reviewing ongoing projects, and your name came up consistently. Seems you've been doing a lot of work behind the scenes. Maya blinked. I try my best. You do more than that, he said. Your reports are clear, your coordination is strong, and your problem-solving skills stood out. I want you to help lead the new development project. Maya's breath caught. This wasn't a small task. It wasn't a simple promotion either. It was an opportunity that could change her entire career. Me, she stammered. But there are people more experienced than I am. I'm aware, Elias replied. And yet, your work impressed me. The words warmed her from inside. She wasn't used to recognition, especially not from someone at the top. Her department head nodded. I think it's a great opportunity for you, Maya. But Maya wasn't sure. A swell of nerves rushed through her. Working under him directly, seeing him in meetings, trying not to think about the motorcycle incident every time she saw his face. She swallowed hard. Are you sure I'm the right person? Elias tilted his head slightly, studying her with quiet confidence. You're exactly the right person. The way he said it was steady, convincing, yet gentle, like he wasn't speaking to an employee, but to someone he genuinely believed in. She didn't know how to respond. Before she could, Elias added, if you agree, we'll start with a review meeting this afternoon. Her heartbeat thumped in her chest. She knew she couldn't say no. Not if she wanted her career to grow. Not if she wanted to earn the respect she'd worked so hard for. I accept, she said finally. A faint smile touched his lips, one that only she seemed to notice. Good. Her department had excused himself, leaving the two of them alone in the room. The silence settled softly, not awkward, just thick with unspoken thoughts. I hope this isn't too overwhelming, Elias said quietly. It's a little overwhelming, Maya admitted, but in a good way. I'm glad, he said. And Maya, he paused for a moment, searching for the right words. I meant what I said. I won't make things uncomfortable for you. She looked down at the table, her cheeks warming again. I appreciate that. He stepped back slightly, returning to the professional tone he carried earlier. I'll send the meeting details shortly. Until then, just continue as you usually do. She nodded. All right. As she walked out of the room, her steps felt uncertain, like her body hadn't caught up with her mind yet. The moment she reached her desk, she took a deep breath and whispered, Okay, this is happening. She had no idea what working directly with him would be like, whether things would stay professional, whether the memory of the motorcycle would fade or grow stronger. All she knew was that her life had shifted again. She wasn't invisible anymore. Not at work. Not to him. And somehow, that scared her more than anything else. The afternoon came faster than Maya expected. She had barely finished rereading her own reports when her inbox chimed with a new message. The subject line read, Project Review, 3 p.m. Her stomach tightened. It was happening. She was officially going to work directly under the new CEO, the same man she had teased at a red light. For the rest of the day, she tried to calm her nerves. She told herself that this was work, nothing else. She reminded herself that he had promised not to make things awkward. And she believed him, mostly. Still, every time she imagined being alone in a room with him, her heart fluttered like it had its own thoughts. At exactly 2:58 p.m., Maya walked toward the meeting room, clutching her notebook like a lifeline. She paused outside the door, took a deep breath, and knocked. Come in, his calm voice called out. She stepped inside. Elias was already seated at the table, reviewing a file. He looked up when she entered. His expression was professional, but there was something softer in his eyes, something she couldn't quite define. Right on time, he said. I like to be punctual, she replied, closing the door behind her. Good habit, he said with a small smile. She sat down across from him, putting her notebook on the table. Elias slid a folder toward her. This is the project plan. I want us to go through each section together. I'd like your input, not just agreement. I want to hear what you think. She blinked, surprised. Usually higher-ups only wanted quick answers, not real ideas from someone like her. I'll do my best, she said quietly. I know you will, he replied. The first 20 minutes were incredibly professional. They reviewed timelines, assigned tasks, discussed team strengths, and identified weak points. Maya found her rhythm surprisingly quickly. Whenever she shared an idea, Elias listened fully, leaning back slightly, nodding at the right moments, asking follow-up questions that showed he valued her thoughts. It felt nice, unexpectedly nice. At one point, she pointed out a potential delay in one of the phases. Elias raised an eyebrow. Good catch. I didn't even notice that. Maya looked down shyly. I've worked with that team before. They are great, but they usually need extra time for testing. Then we'll adjust the timeline, he said easily. Thanks for catching that. She felt a small spark of confidence warm her chest. He wasn't just pretending to listen. He was actually changing plans based on her feedback. As the review continued, Maya relaxed more and more. The nervous energy slowly faded, replaced by quiet focus. She almost forgot who he was, until he spoke in that familiar tone again. The one she remembered from the motorcycle encounter. You're very thoughtful when you work, he observed. Maya looked up quickly, surprised by the personal comment. Oh, I just try to be careful. It shows, he said. Then he paused before adding, it showed yesterday too. Her breath got stuck. She knew exactly what he was referring to. The red light. The teasing. The small smile she couldn't erase from her memory. She straightened in her chair. That was just a moment. I didn't know who you were. I know, he said gently. But I like that. You talked to me before knowing anything about my position. She felt her cheeks warm again. If I had known, I probably would have stayed quiet. That would have been a shame, he said softly. Her heart fluttered wildly, but he quickly shifted back into work mode as if nothing had happened. They continued the review, but every time she glanced at him, she caught that small hint of warmth in his eyes. Not unprofessional, just human, as if he, too, was remembering the red light moment no matter how hard he tried not to. An hour passed before they finished. Maya closed her notebook. I think that covers everything. It does, he said. He stood up, stretching lightly. You did really well today. Thank you, she replied, packing her things quickly so she didn't look nervous. As she stood to leave, he walked beside her to the door. Just as she reached for the handle, he said, Maya. She froze and turned slowly. His voice was calm, but his eyes held something deeper, something curious, almost hesitant. I hope working with me isn't uncomfortable for you. She shook her head. It's not uncomfortable, just unexpected. That's fair, he said with a gentle laugh. Then his tone softened. If it ever becomes too much, you can tell me. Her heart squeezed. It won't. I promise. He watched her for a moment longer, as if trying to read something in her expression. Then he nodded. Good. We make a strong team already. She smiled, a small, genuine smile. Yeah, I think so too. He opened the door for her, and she walked out into the hallway with a strange mix of emotions swirling inside her. Relief, excitement, curiosity, and something else she wasn't brave enough to name. As she returned to her desk, one thought repeated itself again and again. Working with him is going to change everything, and I don't know if I'm ready for it. But something inside her whispered that she wasn't meant to stay in her comfort zone forever. Something was beginning, and she felt it with every step. The next few days moved by faster than Maya expected. Working directly with Elias had become strangely normal. Not easy, not relaxed, but normal in a way that made her forget her earlier panic. He wasn't intimidating the way people had described him. Yes, he was focused. Yes, he expected good work. Yes, he carried himself with quiet confidence that made people instinctively straighten their backs when he walked by. But with Maya, there were moments, tiny ones, when the strict CEO exterior softened. Small smiles, a warm tone, a hint of amusement when she made a sharp observation. But he never crossed a professional line. Not once. And that made things even more confusing for her. Late one evening, after most employees had already left, Maya was still in the office finishing the project summary. She didn't want to leave anything incomplete, especially knowing Elias relied on her accuracy. The office was quiet, just the soft hum of lights and the distant sound of cleaning staff working in other areas. She rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the clock. Almost 8 p.m. She sighed. I need to go home. Just as she began packing her things, she heard footsteps approaching. Slow, steady, familiar. Maya. She turned, surprised. Elias stood near her desk, jacket off, sleeves rolled to his elbows. He looked less like a CEO and more like someone who had also been working too long. "You're still here?" he asked. She nodded. "Just finishing the summary." "You could have sent it in the morning," he said gently. "I know, but I didn't want to risk delays." Elias smiled softly. "You work harder than you need to." "I'm just doing my job." "You're doing more than that," he corrected. "And I appreciate it." Her heart warmed at his words. Compliments from co-workers were rare. Hearing it from him felt almost unreal. Elias glanced at her screen. "Mind if I take a look?" She moved aside, letting him lean closer. She tried focusing on the document, but she couldn't ignore the slight scent of his cologne or the calm way he read through her work. After a moment, he nodded. "This is excellent." "Thank you," she said quietly. "I hope it's helpful." "It is," he said. Then his voice softened. "You're helpful." She swallowed hard. His tone wasn't flirtatious, it was sincere. And somehow, that made it affect her more. He straightened up. "You should go home. It's too late to be working." "Are you leaving too?" "Yes," he said with a small sigh. "Even CEOs need to sleep sometimes." She smiled. "That's good to know." They walked toward the elevator together, matching steps. The hallway felt strangely peaceful with just the two of them walking side by side. Once inside the elevator, silence filled the small space. Not tense, not awkward, just thoughtful. After a few seconds, Elias spoke quietly. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." He looked at her with gentle curiosity. "Why were you out so late that night? When we met at the traffic light?" Her breath caught. She didn't expect that question. "Oh, I had a long shift," she said honestly. "I was tired, stressed. I remember thinking I needed something to lift my mood. I didn't expect it to come from a stranger on a motorcycle." A slow smile appeared on his face. "I'm glad I stopped at that red light then." "So am I," she admitted before she could stop herself. Their eyes met briefly, just a second, but something passed between them again. Something quiet, something honest. "And you?" she asked before she could change her mind. "Why were you out riding?" "Someone like you. I didn't expect to see you on a bike." He breathed out, looking slightly away. "I ride when I want to disappear for a while." "Disappear from what?" she asked softly. "Expectations," he answered. "Titles. Responsibilities. People who treat me different because of what I own, not who I am." Maya listened quietly, absorbing the weight behind his words. "When I ride," he continued, "I'm just a man on a motorcycle. No suits, no meetings, no pressure, no eyes watching every move I make." "And you like that I talk to you without knowing any of that," she said. His voice softened even more. "I did. More than you think." Maya felt her heart stay. Not in a dramatic, mover-like way, just genuinely. Because for the first time, she saw him not as a CEO or a billionaire, but as someone who carried his own quiet loneliness. The elevator chimed, doors opening. They stepped out slowly. Outside the building, the night air was cool and calm. Their cars were parked in different directions, but neither of them moved immediately. "Maya," he said gently. She looked up. "I don't want you to feel pressured," he said carefully. "If working with me becomes uncomfortable in any way, you have the right to say so." "It's not uncomfortable," she whispered. "It's just new." "New isn't always bad," he replied softly. She knew he was right. After a moment, he nodded toward her car. "Get home safe." "You too," she said. They walked away in opposite directions, but Maya felt something different inside her chest. She no longer felt intimidated. She no longer felt confused. She felt connected. Not because of his position, not because of the unexpected twist of fate, but because, for a brief moment, she had seen the real person behind the suit. And he had seen her too. The following week arrived with a mix of excitement and quiet nervousness for Maya. She and Elias had settled into an easy work rhythm, professional on the outside, but with small moments of warmth that neither of them could hide. She didn't know what it meant yet, and she didn't want to assume anything. All she knew was that her heart reacted to him in ways her mind couldn't control. The big project they were preparing for was finally ready for its final review. If everything went well, it would move forward, and Maya's career would take a huge step. She worked on the finishing touches with care, double-checking every line and number. When the final meeting ended successfully, the room filled with relieved smiles and quiet claps. People congratulated each other, and Maya received praise she had never experienced before. Elias stood slightly apart, watching everything calmly. But when his eyes found hers, he gave the smallest nod, one filled with pride. The kind of pride that made her feel seen in a way she never had been. Later that day, as everyone left the conference room, Maya was gathering her things when she felt someone quietly step beside her. "You did great today," Elias said. "Thank you," she replied, unable to hold back a shy smile. "I'm glad it went well." "It went well because you handled half of it," he said simply. She flushed. "I just did my job." "No," he corrected gently. "You went far beyond that." The way he looked at her made her heart twist. She tried to speak, but the words got stuck. After a brief pause, Elias cleared his throat. "Since the project is done, I was thinking maybe we could get coffee sometime. Outside the office." Maya froze. Coffee? With him? Outside work? Her heart jumped so fast she had to look away for a second. She wasn't afraid of him. She wasn't scared of rumors. But she did fear one thing, misunderstanding his intentions. She didn't want to assume anything and embarrass herself. "Are you asking as the CEO?" she asked cautiously. "No," he said softly. "I'm asking as the man you met at a red light." Her breath caught. There it was, the truth neither of them had said out loud. Before she could respond, he added, "No pressure. If you don't feel comfortable, I'll forget I asked." Maya stared at him, noticing a tiny hint of vulnerability in his expression. It surprised her. People like him, powerful, admired, constantly in control, didn't show fear. But right now, he looked like someone who genuinely cared about her answer. "I don't feel uncomfortable," she said finally. "I just didn't expect you to ask." "Then I'll take that as a yes?" he asked gently. She nodded. "Yes." A warm smile touched his lips, so small that others might have missed it, but just big enough to make her chest fill with something soft. They chose a quiet cafe a few blocks away after work. No drivers, no fancy cars, no staff trailing behind him. Just him, wearing simple clothes, blending into the evening crowd. As they sat across from each other, Maya realized something surprising. Talking to Elias outside the office felt even more natural than she expected. There was no pressure, no rush, no tension. Just conversation. He told her about his early struggles, starting small, working long nights, building his business from scratch before success found him. She listened, amazed at how different his journey was from the image people painted of him. "You never seem lonely," she said quietly. "People admire you so much." He looked down at his coffee. Loneliness doesn't care about admiration. The honesty in his voice touched her deeply. "And you?" he asked gently. "You seem strong, but also tired." She smiled faintly. "I've always been tired. Work, bills, responsibilities. But I try to stay positive." "You do more than try," he said. "You bring life to the room when you walk in." The compliment hit her heart with unexpected force. She didn't think anyone noticed her, let alone someone like him. They talked for a long time, about dreams, worries, families, and the strange way life sometimes brought two people together at the most unexpected moments. At one point, Maya laughed about something he said, and he stared at her for a second longer than usual. "I missed that," he murmured. "Missed what?" "That smile." Her cheeks warmed, but she didn't look away. When they finally stepped outside, the sky had turned a deep shade of blue. They walked slowly toward the corner where they would part ways. "Maya," he said softly, stopping under a streetlight. "Yes. Whatever this is, we can take it slow. I don't want to complicate your life." "You're not complicating it," she said honestly. "You're just changing it." He exhaled, a small smile appearing. "In a good way." She nodded. "In a good way." For a moment, they simply stood there, the evening breeze moving gently around them. No rushing, no pressure, Just quiet understanding. Elias took a small step back, giving her space. Then, we'll see where this goes. Naturally. I'd like that, she replied. He didn't touch her. He didn't overstep. He simply gave her a look, soft, warm, full of meaning, and said, "Good night, Maya." "Good night," she whispered. She walked away, still smiling, her heart lighter than it had been in years. For once, life didn't feel heavy. It felt open, full of possibilities. She didn't know exactly where things would lead. She didn't know what challenges might come. She didn't know how their story would unfold. But she did know one thing. A stranger on a motorcycle had become someone important. And the unexpected meeting at a red light had changed her life for good.